Biology Professor Ian. It's part 2 of the video lecture on close reading. So we just looked at two 2-minute mysteries, and I gave you the textual evidence to look for. But those are just kind of fun ways to think about looking for little pieces of textual evidence to help you solve a mystery. What we do with literature as college and university students is a bit different, a bit more advanced. We like to work more with the text, with that theory, like I was talking about with the detective in the beginning of my first lecture. So I love to use the acronym EAT to think about this. We like to eat the text, and that stands for explicate, analyze, theorize, right? So by explicate, I mean explain and understand the details of the actual text, right? So look at the who, where, when, what. And so that's what we did with the 2-minute mystery. We were explicating, we were explaining and looking for those little details, those little textual details in the text. And then we analyzed. The analysis for that was very simple. It's a deliberate puzzle in that way that if you find that piece of textual evidence, you've unlocked the mystery, you've solved the puzzle. So the analysis is very basic for the 2-minute mystery. What we want to do is look for patterns and abnormalities in the actual text and how this creates meaning. So start looking, explicate, right? Find the details, the textual evidence in the actual text, and then add it up by looking for patterns in order to theorize, right? So propose theories that explain what the overall meaning of the actual text is. And so like a detective, right? Looking for clues, you're explicating. Okay, I found DNA, I found a murder weapon. Analyze, okay, the DNA belongs to this guy. We know he owned a knife just like this. He has motive. I found this pattern that points to him. My theory is that he's the killer. Right? So explicate, analyze, theorize. Again, with the 2-minute mysteries, that's not really, once you get past the explication part, you're pretty much done. Let's look at something more advanced. This is a famous poem by Sylvia Plath, the great poet, long dead, but she was pretty great. This is one called Metaphors. And let me just read it, and then we'll talk about it. Hopefully you read it on your own. Maybe it popped out to you what it's about. I'm a riddle in 9 syllables, an elephant, a ponderous house, a melon strutting on 2 tendrils. Oh, red fruit, ivory, fine timbers, this loaf's big with its yeasty rising. Money's new minted in this fat purse. I'm a means, a stage, a cow and calf. I've eaten a bag of green apples, boarded the train, there's no getting off. So, short poem, it's a series of metaphors, hence the title, Metaphors. But also, in the first line, she tells you, I'm a riddle in 9 syllables. So she tells you literally the subject of this poem, the I of this poem, is a riddle. So something to solve, something we can unpack, look for textual evidence, put together and say, oh, it's about this. So if we look at it, right, 9 syllables, if you count the syllables in every line, that's the beats, right? I'm a riddle in 9 syllables, right? There's 9 beats per line, and it's true of every line. There's also, let's see, 9 lines. Okay, so this pattern of 9 is very important. Something to keep in mind. What else has to do with 9, we might think? Also, let's see what the metaphors add up to, right? A metaphor is comparison between 2 things without using like or as. So the subject of the poem, is like an elephant, like a ponderous house, so like a big unwieldy house, like a melon strolling on 2 tendrils. That's kind of a whimsical image. And then this 4th line points back, oh, red fruit, that's the melon, ivory, elephant, fine timbers, the house, so pointing back to those images, kind of singing the praises, oh, like an ode, right? And we'll talk about some more of this kind of stuff when we get to poetry later in the semester, but just, humor me for now. This loaf's big with its yeasty rising, okay, so we're starting to get a pattern here in the metaphors, right? Elephant, a big house, a melon, they're kind of round, big things, right? The loaf is rising. Money is new minted, so new money in this fat purse. So again, this image of bigness. And then it kind of changes, it shifts a bit here. I'm a means, a stage, a cow and calf. And this is where she gets pretty blatant with what's going on, a cow and calf. That just means a cow giving birth to a baby cow, right? So maybe you have an idea what the poem is about. I've eaten a bag of green apples. That's an old wives' tale, so I wouldn't expect you to pick up on that. Boarded the train, there's no getting off. So kind of a fatalistic ending line. So hopefully you're putting together these metaphors, thinking about this symbolism of 9. Why is 9 so important? And it's about pregnancy, right? 9 months. An elephant. People say I'm as big as an elephant, and all these images of being big and round, right? A melon strolling on two tendrils. A pregnant woman might feel that way. So, anyways, we've explicated. We've looked at all the images, all the metaphors. We've added up, looked for the pattern, and we realize, oh, it's about pregnancy. So that's almost all the way there, right? That's doing the explication, the analysis. Now, for us as students of literature, we need to think about, all right, so what is she saying about pregnancy? Because that's part of what she's doing. She says this riddle, right? It's about pregnancy. What is she saying? Is she positive about pregnancy? Is she negative? Right? That last line, boarded the train, there's no getting off, is this kind of fatalistic look at pregnancy. But the beginning, these kind of whimsical imagery, right? This whimsical imagery of melon strolling on two tendrils, or is she being ironic? Is she making fun of that kind of overblown imagery of pregnancy? A cow and calf, comparing herself to a cow giving birth is not a really positive thing. So this is where we would come up with our theories and then point back to the textual evidence of what this poem is about, in the sense that what is Sylvia Plath saying about pregnancy? It's about pregnancy. We get that by explicating and doing some analysis. But now, as students, we need to go further and think about what she's saying, getting into the meaning of the text, right? And then you would use textual evidence for that too. You could make an argument that it's a negative portrayal of pregnancy by pointing at certain lines. You could make an argument that it's mixed, it's some negative, some positive, right? I know when my wife was pregnant, she felt that way. Some days it was the worst thing in the world, some days it was the best. So, there's different arguments you could make using this textual evidence. And that's where you get into that theorized part, right? We've explicated, we broke apart the imagery and metaphor, we analyzed, we found out, oh, it's about pregnancy, there's some negative, some positive. What is this poem saying? What do we take from this? That's the theorizing part. And that's what we're going to work on this semester. We're going to work on all these skills, but leading up to the theorize, because that's really where the goal is. Another acronym you can use if you don't like EAT is AXIS. Assertions, examples, explanations, and significance, right? There's all kinds of different acronyms. I like EAT. If you like this, that's totally fine. AXIS. There might be a different way to access the same idea for you. It's basically going through the same kind of thing. I like the addition of significance. Why does this matter, right? That's always a big question to ask. So before we start breaking apart a poem, though, part of explicating a poem is doing some pre-thinking, some active reading, right? So before you read, what are your expectations based on the title? What do you know about the author? Does this lead you to expect anything? Why did the professor assign this story? That's always a good one in school. Why am I, me the professor, why did I assign this to you? There has to be a reason. What can you expect to learn? As you're reading, a number of things, keeping track of the characters. This is especially true for fiction. Who's the protagonist? Who's the antagonist? Who's the good guys and bad guys, right? Do you like specific characters? This is always a big one. Why or why not? Because oftentimes we have a protagonist that we're not supposed to like necessarily. If you read Macbeth, are you supposed to like Macbeth? And he does kill his boss just to get ahead. But he's also the hero and you root for him. So it's an interesting question. Setting, point of view, the plot, circling words you don't recognize, looking them up, looking at the writing style. Is it simple, complex, conversational? Are there images, figurative language, or symbols? Right? And this is what we were doing with that poem we just looked at, looking for those metaphors. After you read, right? So engage reading before, during, and after. Did the characters change over the course of the story? In which ways? This is true for narrative poetry and plays as well. What pattern is there to images and figurative language used? And then Freytag's pyramid, which I'll look at in a different lecture to think about plot structure. And finally, I just wanted to end by thinking about this detective metaphor, circling back to that. Of course, the detective metaphor, there's some problems with using this. Detectives are engaged in deadly serious pursuits, and we're here just for fun, right? And to, form arguments and practice critical thinking, but, it should be more fun than trying to track down a murderer. Detectives, here's the bigger problem. Detectives want to uncover the one correct answer. There's one killer. They need to find that killer. We're going to be working with literary works that are deliberately ambiguous. That is, there's no one answer. It's the intention of the author is to raise a question, get you thinking about a topic, whatever, but not spoon feed you any kind of answer. They want to there's multiple ways to interpret that poem that we just looked at, right? And that's what Sylvia Plath wants. She doesn't want to just say, oh, pregnancy sucks. She wants to engage in this more thoughtful process. And that's what good literature does. So anyways, that's about it for now. Thank you for sticking with this lecture. That's about it. Thank you very much.